Start with Pam Bondi. So Bondi was occasionally I do get her confused with Ashley Moody, the current Attorney General from the state of Florida. Bondi was Attorney General back before Moody, so she was not Attorney General while the COVID grand jury or anything COVID was happening. While Bondi was Attorney General, kind of nondescript, nothing memorable sticks out. She was for Attorney General of the state of Florida for part of the time, in which Trump was president. I don't know about anybody else, but I don't remember much about her time period from that period. Then she went to work for Susie Wiles' lobbying law firm, and she was a lobbyist for the last year or two of Trump administration, and a lobbyist ever since. So that's where I'm. I have a wait and see approach to how Bondi will be as Attorney General. I'm not skeptical as I was with both Bill Barr and Sessions. I thought Sessions, the one place he should not be was where they put him, was the Justice Department. I thought he would be much more effective as a trade representative, Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, given his tariff and war skeptical policies aligned with Trump. His DOJ policies really did not align with Trump, and then he was easily rolled. I don't think Bondi is easily rolled. So Bondi's definitely an upgrade over any recent Attorney General we've had. But how much of an upgrade when we need a drastic and dramatic upgrade is the question yet to be answered. But she held up pretty well. Some people noted that she's like 60, I think, almost 60 years old, but doesn't look it. So, obviously got good genes in that regard. But yeah, so I thought she held up fine today, and was more promising than I would have initially suspected. Rubio's statement was interesting today as Secretary of State nominee, because he's one of the senators liked by the Senate. He will breeze through his nomination confirmation process. But what was interesting was his point about China's manufacturing control of so many things makes us dependent on China in the modern economy. And if we don't want to be dependent on China in the modern economy, we need to restructure how we handle ourselves domestically, more so than focus on intervening overseas. He also fully endorsed Trump's approach to Ukraine to get it solved now, and that Ukraine can't win, and that Ukraine's going to have to give up concessions. So that was very promising to hear on that side of the confirmation process. Hegseth yesterday did well in his confirmation hearing so far. So it looks like the ones they're still targeting, trying to take. Ratcliffe did fine today for his CIA nomination. Gabbard is clearly one of their focal points. Kennedy is one of their focal points of people they want to oppose, but I think that's counterproductive politically. If you're a Democrat, do you want to oppose the former Democratic nominees that highlight the constituencies you've been losing over the last 4 years? Do you really want to remind younger Democrats why they voted for Trump by going after Gabbard? Why they voted for Trump by going after Kennedy? We're going to see a really clear indicator how organized and politically savvy they are over the next several weeks. But I've been underwhelmed so far by their Democratic presentation in the Senate in these confirmation hearings. This was their opportunity to make some news, and they have not done so in a way favorable to their side. So we'll see how it goes. I was on earlier today with Owen Schroyer talking about, and this goes to some of the questions in the reply thread, what I envision a effective Trump Justice Department would look like. Now, several of his appointees beneath Bondi I really like. I like Harmeet Dillon at Civil Rights, Leo Terrell also at Civil Rights, Office of Legal Policy coming from Ken Paxton's office. I don't think he's appointed or named yet somebody for the tax division. That's its own appointment. So I think that there's some promising indicators in some of those appointments, which can't often be as essential as any others. To me, I see Bondi's responsibility as to restore the constitutional republic and faith and confidence in our law enforcement apparatus. And that I see that as requiring a threefold approach. One, mostly led by Trump, but facilitated by the Justice Department, is the dismissal of charges, pardons, and commutations. Bondi doesn't have to wait for Trump to pardon January 6th defendants. She can, as the new Attorney General, come in and authorize the dismissal of all kinds of charges. And I hope she does. And can promote and recognize where pardons and commutations would be appropriate as well. But she has a lot of power in that respect. So that will be a first key test. Does she undo the damage the Justice Department did in its lawfare over the past half decade by pardoning, commuting, or recommending, or bringing about the dismissal of charges against the likes of Julian Assange, Ed Snowden, Roger Ver, Bitcoin Jesus, Ross Ulbricht, the January 6th defendants, Steve Bannon, Peter Navarro, so on and so forth. The Mackey, the meme maker out of the Eastern District of New York, the various Trump cases, dismissing those for good, so on and so. So there's a lot of things she can do to de-weaponize the Justice Department and undo the damage done by a weaponized Justice Department. Second thing she can do from a broader policy perspective is unleash the Civil Rights Division to undo the damage of lawfare at the state and local level and the corrupt application of federal monies. That can go to the Ketam Division, the Fraud Division. So between the Civil Rights Division, headed by Harmeet Dillon, nominee, and the Ketam Division, which I don't think has yet a nominee, those two are powerful federal tools to undo the damage done by lawfare, undo the damage done by sanctuary cities and aiding and abetting the entry of illegal aliens into this country en masse, which will implicate members of the Biden administration, implicate members of the United Nations, implicate major non-governmental organizations, particularly those tied to the likes of Bill Gates and George Soros. That, it's the Civil Rights Division and the Ketam Division, because inevitably these state agencies and non-governmental organizations and their corporate complicit parties receive revenues from the federal government in one way, shape, or form. So follow the money and see how they misallocated that money, how they made fraudulent requests for that money. I think they've unleashed Ketam, unleashed Civil Rights Division, from where state law enforcement, state judges violated the federal constitutional civil rights of Americans in their lawless actions to interfere with the election, to illegally aid and abet the entry of illegal immigrants into the country, as just in the diversion of funds concerning natural disasters in Hawaii and in Maui and Malibu, Hawaii and California. You're going to find misuse of funds, of federal government funds. You're going to find civil rights violations by law enforcement personnel, by state actors, by in some cases state judges like Merchan and his daughter in New York against President Trump, for example. So use the Civil Rights Division to restore the constitutional republic by putting it back to its original duties of making sure state and local governments follow and enforce your federally protected civil rights. And then unleash the Ketam Division to go after the big NGO fraudsters that are involved in things like aiding and abetting illegal entry into the United States, misallocation of federal taxpayer dollars. And then, of course, in that capacity, look at all have a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, effectively, for COVID policy and other bad faith deep state actions over the past half decade, and see some high-ranking government officials face some consequence for their bad acts in that capacity, because that, too, Ketam can be very helpful. Ketam, for example, is how we were able to bring the Brooke Jackson case against Pfizer. There's nothing that prohibits Pam Bondi from stepping in and saying, now that I'm the Attorney General, we are going to withdraw our objections to the Brooke Jackson case, and we instead want that case to go forward to the discovery stage. That'll be one of the first most consequential decisions Bondi will make. What's interesting is that, the so many of the senators aren't asking anything relevant or pertinent or significant so far on either side of the aisle. But that will be something key to watch with Bondi. So you have the power of pardons and commutations and dismissal of charges. You have the power to open up investigations using civil rights and key TAM cases to go after the various lawfare and misallocation of funds under the guise of natural disasters and pandemics over the past half decade as well. So those are just two of the key areas that in the Justice Department she can reform from a policy perspective. From a personnel perspective, she needs to replace as many people as possible because the entire Justice Department, all the way down to the janitor, is politically tainted and has become so. And, restore anybody that was fired or removed because of vaccine mandates, number one. Reward the kind of people who opposed vaccine mandates with promotions, not the others, not those who were facilitated or enabled the vaccine mandates. And re-examine the ethical behavior of prosecutors in every single office over every single case that they've handled, with a lot of them being complicit in lawfare over the past half decade. So mass replacement of personnel is the other step, along with policy changes at the top. And so we'll see how well Bondi does, but the success of President Trump at restoring faith and confidence in the constitutional republic it's as important what he does at the Justice Department as what he does anywhere. His success will heavily depend on how successful Bondi is at the Justice Department, at least as it relates to lawfare issues and faith and confidence in the American legal system.